Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madeline, and I'm a manager in the Office of Civics and Community Services at the Los Angeles Public Library. Today, we're really excited. We have a special guest, Martha E. Gonzalez, and she's here to talk about voting rights. And so Martha is the California Program Manager at NALEO Educational Fund, the leading nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that facilitates full Latino participation in the American political process, from citizenship to public service. In her role as the California Program Manager, Martha leads the naturalization efforts in California. In addition to naturalization, Martha works on census and voter engagement. Previously, Martha worked for Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo and Ellie Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. Martha holds a Master of Social Work from California State University Northridge and a second master's degree in forensic psychology from Argosy University. Welcome, Martha. Thanks for coming today.
Unmuted. Oh, no, I'm not muted anymore. Hi, Madeline. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you so much for reaching out to NALEO Educational Fund. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, we have been doing census work, but now we're transitioning to election work. So very excited, very happy to be here. Very happy to share a lot of information about election work. So yes, I'm excited. So, yes, excited to be here. I'm ready.
Awesome, great. So whenever your presentation can be queued up, I think we're ready to go.
Awesome. Well, so yeah, so I do have a PowerPoint presentation. It's quite lengthy. I'm gonna speed up through some of the slides, but I just wanted to make sure that viewers have basic information about some of the work that we're doing. But I do want to focus on water protection. I know there has been some things on media, on TV. So most of this presentation will focus on water protection. And also, if there are any questions, please feel free to ask those questions at the end of the presentation. I have noticed that in the past, usually most of your questions are answered throughout the presentation.
Sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so we will ask people to ask them at the end of the presentation. So now I'm just gonna project my PowerPoint and then we'll start.
Okay, great, thanks.
Madeline, do you see it? Just double checking that you see my screen.
Yes, I do.
Awesome. Well, great. So let's start. I know we have a lot of content to cover. So let's start right away. So election 2020 and the Latino voter participation. Again, Marta Gonzalez, California Program Manager with NALEO Educational Fund. I know Madeline already mentioned who we are, but just very briefly, NALEO Educational Fund is the national leading nonprofit organization that facilitates full Latino participation in the American political process, from citizenship to public service. NALEO Educational Fund was established in 1981 and is governed by a 15-member board of directors, and the board chair is Honorable Mayra Candelaria Rearton. And like I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, we were doing a lot of census work, and now we're transitioning to voter engagement work. And what is our voter engagement philosophy? NALEO Educational Fund's mission in the voter engagement space is to expand the Latino electorate, reaching and mobilizing those in the community least likely to participate. Break the cycle of being left out of the American political process. And how do we do this? Our strategy is invitation, empowering messages plus information equals more participation. We are research and data-driven in our approach. We learn, test, and refine in order to inform the field of effective messages, strategies, and tactics. So now I would like to share with you some stats on what the Latino voter electorate in California. So Latino voter potential and impact, current voting potential, impact, and projections. So in California, so this is just for California right now. Right now, as of 2018, the U.S. citizen adult population was 25,838,830 citizenships. Out of that number, Latino 2008 U.S. citizen adult population was 7,863,415, And the projected Latino vote for this year, for this election, it will be 3,999,800. So according to the 2008 Census American Community Survey data, Latinos represent 39% of the California's total population and are the largest population group in the state. Latinos also comprise nearly one of every three of the state's voting age U.S. citizens, 30%. NALEO Educational Fund projects that at least 4.0 million California Latinos will vote in November 2020. Some other statistics, as of registered voters in 2020, total registered voters, 20,451,297. Out of that number, Latino registered voters are 5,518,637. So those are some statistics that NALEO has put together, and we wanted to share with you. So what are the Latino registered voters here in California? Again, NALEO Educational Fund projections, 14.6 million Latinos will be voting in election 2020. This represents a 15% increase in turnout since election 2016. So we are expecting that the Latino community will come out to vote. So more statistics, and I'll just go through the ones in California. Again, in California, Latino vote projections, 3,999,800. Latino share total vote, it's 26.4%. And that is a 20% increase from November 2016 election. Again, very briefly, I'm gonna share with you some research that NALEO Educational Fund has done. So Latino voters are risk. So the Latino community faces some barriers because of COVID-19, and I'm going to briefly describe some of those barriers. So COVID-19, the virus, the pandemic, data shows that Latinos are more likely to suffer severe health and economic consequences from the pandemic than non-Hispanic whites. Voter registration as a result of the pandemic, DMVs and other public agencies have closed or reduced their services. Additionally, public service settings or through person-to-person contact are among the most effective ways for registered Latino voters. So because of the pandemic, a lot of public spaces have been closed. So these are some of the ways that commonly Latinos are the way they like to register. So that is affecting, how Latinos register. Voter enthusiasm, polling by research firm Latino Decisions suggests that Latino voter enthusiasm has declined since the onset of the pandemic. And we can see that because there are some other priorities they are being affected by. Their work has been affected, their health has been affected. So voting right now might not be their top priority at this moment. Misinformation. Research suggests that Latino concerns about the trustworthiness of election systems and misinformation may affect their willingness to vote. Voting options. While many jurisdictions are making vote by mail or BBM more accessible, research shows Latinos tend to have lower BBM usage than overall population. So what we know is that Latinos, they like to vote in person. They are not familiar with the process of vote by mail. So that's something that that NALEO Educational Fund will be doing a lot of education as to how to vote by mail. But if people don't feel comfortable voting by mail, we still have some options, and we'll go over that in the later other slides. In addition to the research that I just briefly talked on the previous slides, also in 2020 NALEO Educational Fund and Latino Decisions, they have been conducting a 9-week tracking poll with Latino Decisions. The first week of the poll was September 1st to the 6th, which each week seen an additional 400 Latino registered voters take the survey. So every week we have been doing these surveys with Latino registered voter just to ask them about several issues, and we cover some of them, not all of them. Over the course of the 9-week tracking poll, 3,600 unique Latino voters will be surveyed. Early weeks will provide general look at where Latino registered voters stand on issues and candidates. Yes. So the last poll will be election week. Final results will be released on Monday, November 2nd. So the last poll for during this tracking. Some of the things that we have found out through those surveys is that 62% of the survey respondents are more enthusiastic about voting in 2020 than they were in 2016. 55% of women say they are more enthusiastic about voting in 2020 than they were in 2016, while 67% of men feel the same. 78% of surveyed respondents say they are almost certain they will vote in 2020. 65% of survey respondents said that they plan on voting to vote for Vice President Joe Biden compared to 25% of President Donald Trump. 69% of women plan on voting for Vice President Joe Biden compared to 64% of men. And lastly, 53% of all survey respondents who identify as independent or others say that they plan on voting for Vice President Joe Biden, and 21% plan on voting for President Donald Trump. So these are some tracking pollings that we have been doing, just asking registered voters how they feel about several issues. Another survey, during some of the surveys, some of the respondents say health, racism, discrimination, and jobs are most important issues. As COVID-19, the respondents, 48% of them, they stated that COVID-19 was one of the most important issues to them. After that, it was 30% of them say lowering health costs was an issue important to them. 37% of them, racism and discrimination was an issue that they reported. And jobs and wages, 25% said that that's an issue that was very important to them. Police reform and Black Lives Matter have a 60% favorability rate. 67% of survey respondents say that the state should wait until after the election to let the next president make next SCOTUS notification. And what that means, the SCOTUS nomination is the next Supreme Court Justice. Lastly, just wanted to share with you voting options. I think I mentioned this on previous slides. Preference to vote by mail continues to decline. So 55% in 1 week. Yeah, so like I mentioned, so Latino voters, they prefer to vote in person. So because of what is going on with the pandemic, people know that they can vote by mail, but again, they prefer to vote in person. So our job as NALEO Educational Fund, we're gonna inform the community about their different options that they have. For those who do plan to vote by mail, 83% plan on voting right away. And then 30% respondents say that they do not trust the mail-in ballots will be correctly delivered back to the county elections departments, though that is an option. 99% say that they are not familiar with how to request a mail-in ballot. Preference to vote in person continues to increase, 45% in 1 week. Among respondents who plan to vote in person, 41% intend to vote early. For those who do plan to vote by mail, 79% plan on voting right away. So this is just show us that we just need, again, to inform and educate the community about the voting options. If they want to vote in person, that's great. If they want to vote by mail, that's also good. If they want to fill out their ballots and then drop it off, that is another option. So we'll discuss all these options later on. So key dates and voting options. So this is where we'll go into details, and most of my presentation will be focused on this. So the election timeline. So in early October, there were a lot of events, there were a lot of activities on voting, registering people to vote. I know that on September 24th, NALEO did a lot of activity nationwide on the NVRD, on National Voter Registration Day, where we were creating a lot of awareness to the communities about registering to vote. After that, in October, in California, all registered voters were sent a vote by mail ballot in early October 5th. So by now, most registered voters should have received a vote by mail ballot. And then mid to late October, it's early voting. So in California, once the voter received his or her vote by mail, he and she can start can vote early. So as soon as they receive the ballot, they can start voting early. And then a week leading up to election day is GOTV, or get out the vote. So you will that's when a lot of campaigns, a lot of elected candidates will be activated, and there will be people will receive a lot of messages about the last week to vote. So there will be a lot of awareness, a lot of activities on that week. And also I mentioned previously that we have been doing a lot of work on census. Also, October 31st is the last day for you to submit your census. To complete your census, you can still complete it online. It's very simple. It might take less than 10 minutes to complete. So we also encourage you to, if you haven't completed your census, so please take the time to submit your census online. And again, November 3rd is the last day to vote. We want to stress to people that they do not have to wait until November 3rd to vote. We want to tell people that November 3rd is the last day to vote. So you have options. You can vote early. You can vote ahead of time. Do not wait until November 3rd. We anticipate that there will be a huge people turning out, a lot of people turning out to vote. We know there will be very long lines. So please, we ask people that they vote ahead, they vote early, and that November 3rd is the last day to vote. So don't wait. Do not rush November 3rd. Don't put that extra stress on you. Just vote early if you can. Very briefly, what are voter registrations? What are some requirements that you need to meet in order to vote? You can vote in U.S. election if you are a U.S. citizen, you meet your state's residency requirements. You can be homeless and still meet the requirements. So you can vote even if you're homeless. Are you 18 years old or older before election day? In almost every state, you can register to vote before you turn 18, if you will be 18 by election day. Here in California, you can pre-register to vote when you are 16 or 17. Yes, so some just requirements on voter registration. More information on voter registration. So who cannot register or vote in the U.S.? If you're not a U.S. citizen, so that applies to people that are permanent legal residents. For example, I was a permanent legal resident. I could not vote. I could do a lot of things, but one thing that I was not able to vote, what I was not able to do is register and vote. So yes, if you're not a U.S. citizen, you cannot register and you cannot vote. Some people with felony convictions, if you were incarcerated, you might not be able to vote. Also, some people who are mentally incapacitated, if you were declared by the court that you were incapacitated, you might not be able to vote. When should you re-register to vote? If you have moved from the last time you voted, you should re-register to vote. If you have changed your name, you got married, or for some reason your name has changed, you should re-register to vote. If you are changing your political affiliation, you should also re-register to vote. Some things for California, some deadlines. So in California, October 19th is the last day to register to vote. However, here in LA County, we are transitioning from polling locations, precincts, to voter centers. So if for whatever reason you missed the deadline, the October 19th deadline, you can still register the same day at the voting vote centers. So don't think that, for whatever reason you missed that deadline, you were not able to register. If you go to a vote center, any vote center, you will still be able to register the same day and cast your ballot the same date. Request vote by mail ballots must arrive. So if you are requesting a vote by mail ballot, it must arrive by October 27th. However, as I mentioned in the previous slides, all register, because due to the pandemic, the governor signed an executive order saying that all registered voters will receive a vote by mail ballot. So you don't have to request one if you're already registered to vote. So if you received it, but something happens in between now and the 27th, then you, well, I don't want to confuse you. Just know that you will, and by now, by October 5th, you should have received a vote by mail ballot, so that you can, that's an option for you if you want to vote by mail. So submit your vote by mail ballot postmarked by November 3rd. But again, we do not, NALEO Educational Fund is encouraging people, is encouraging the community to please, as soon as you receive that vote by mail ballot, complete it, sign it, date it, and mail it in and submit it. Please do not wait until November the 3rd. Again, November the 3rd is the last day to vote. So if you have it, I already received mine. I received it on October 5th. And so I've been filling it out to make sure that I'm filling out everything correctly, that I'm signing, that I'm dating. And also I will be encouraging my family members to do the same. And together we're going to go and drop it off. So, however, if for whatever reason you're not able to submit it early, your vote by mail ballot must be postmarked by November 3rd. After that, if it's postmarked after that, it most likely will be rejected. I mentioned this earlier. Early voting period starts on October 5th. So again, most registered voters have received the vote by mail ballots. So once you receive it, you can start voting early. So that's what it means by early voting period. It starts on November 5th. So as soon as you receive your vote by mail ballot, you can start voting. You don't have to wait until the last day, which is November 3rd. And lastly, about census, last day to complete your 2020 census is October 31st. You can complete it online, or you can also call the census line to do it over the phone. And you can complete it in multiple languages, including Spanish and English. Some information about vote by mail step by step. Make sure that you're registered to vote. If you're registered to vote, the governor's you will receive your vote by mail. Okay, you don't have to request it. Again, request your mail-in ballot. California is sending all registered voters mail-in ballots. Make sure your address is correct. Fill out your ballot correctly. Your ballot might be rejected if the signatures don't match. Ballot did not arrive on time. And if you want more reliable information, I always check the LA County Register Recorder County Clerk's office to stay updated with the most current and most accurate information. To avoid any issues with your ballot, make sure that it doesn't have any avoid straight marks, tears, or just any issues that might increase the chances of your ballot being rejected. But again, some of the most common issues for the ballot to be rejected, if the signature is missing, the ballot did not arrive on time. Those are the most common issues that we see. Yes, return your ballot as soon as possible. Be aware of key deadlines to ensure your ballot is counted. Again, your ballot must be postmarked November 3rd, but again, you do not have to wait. November 3rd is the last day to vote. But as soon as you receive it, fill it out, sign it, date it, and submit it, okay? If you do not want to use the mail, remember that you can return your ballot at an official county drop-off box, county election office, or at any in-person voting center. Oh, again, the census, did you fill out and mail out back your 2020 census form? Again, October 31st is the last day to complete your census. So we've been talking about some options. So now I will focus on voting options during COVID-19. Vote early, safely, and securely. Vote safely. Practice healthy behaviors to protect yourself and slow the spread of COVID-19. Wash your hands before entering and after leaving the polling location. In this case, the vote centers. While at the polling location or vote center, use alcohol-based hand sanitizer, especially after touching surfaces frequently touched by multiple people, such as door handles or voting machines. Constantly using hand sanitizer. Cover coughs and sneezes with a tissue or the inside of your elbow. Throw used tissues in line trash cans. Wear a mask. Very important that if you're gonna vote in person, to please wear a mask for your safety and for the safety of others. Okay, maintain at least 6 feet, about 2 arms length of distance from others. It is important to continue social distancing even when you and others are wearing a mask. So if you're able, so at the vote centers, the ballot marking devices, so the machines where you will be casting your ballot, they will be spread apart, so they will not be put right next to each other. So they will be located in places where it maintains social distancing. Do not disinfect or wipe down the voting equipment yourself. Electronic voting equipment can be damaged by cleaners or disinfectants. Consider voting alternatives available in your jurisdiction that minimize contact or the amount of time you are in contact with others, such as vote by mail to prevent the contact with others. So if you're, someone that is older, if you have some health conditions, I think that vote by mail is a great option. Okay, if you don't want to go vote in person. Another option is to drop out your ballot if possible. So once you receive that ballot, fill it out, and you can drop it off at either official drop boxes or at the county office or vote centers. Vote early to avoid election day crowds. Hand washing, staying at home when sick, and environmental cleaning and disinfection are important actions election officials, poll workers, and voters can take to help lower the risk of COVID-19 spread. Yes, so that's on voting safely. Vote early. Again, I want to stress the importance of vote early. November 3rd is the last day to vote, but you can vote early. Explore your options for early voting, voting by mail, early voting at vote centers, or drop-off locations. And you will see this official drop-off boxes throughout the county. So those are some of your options if you don't want to vote in person. If voting at the polls or if voting at the vote centers, avoid crowd. Use early voting. Vote at off-peak times such as mid-morning. If driving to the vote center and if schedule allows, monitor the vote line from your car and join when the line is shorter. Be prepared. Check your voting location and requirements in advance because they might have changed due to COVID-19. You can check online what are all the voting locations, all the voting centers. Verify your voter registration information is correct in advance of reporting to the vote center. Make sure that you have all necessary documents to avoid delays at the polling location or vote centers. If possible, and we highly encourage this, is complete any registration form prior to arriving at the voting location. Where possible, review and complete a sample ballot at home to speed up the process of casting your ballot at the polling location. So what that means is if you can complete it at home, so by the time you arrive at the vote center, you don't have to spend too much time there. Bring your own black pen if necessary. Also, bring a stylus or similar object for use with the touchscreen voting machines. Check with your poll workers before using. So if you don't want to touch the equipment that is there, you can use that. It's a good idea to bring that with you, but again, check with the poll workers to make sure that it's okay with them. Vote securely and confidently. To ensure your vote is counted, take some of the following steps. If voting by mail, keep an eye on deadlines to request a vote by mail ballot and deadlines to return your ballot. Again, if you're a registered voter, vote by mail ballot should have been sent to you by October 5th. Make sure to fill out ballots and envelopes correctly. Make sure that your signature matches what your register has online. Voter fraud is rare overall and rarer by mail. When fraud does occur, election administrators identify it and take action, correcting election returns and prosecuting those responsible. But overall, election fraud is rare. I know what we have been hearing on the news and different people saying that it's not secure, it's not this and that. I want you to, the research has been very clear on this. Overall, election fraud is very rare, okay? Mail-in ballot is safe, reliable, and trustworthy. Vote by mail is just an honest and as it is in-person voting. Officials can help ensure public confidence by being transparent and communicating their plans and preparations with voters. People are more interested in voting by mail than ever before because of the pandemic. Yes, so vote by mail has been more, people are hearing more about it because of the pandemic. And again, it's an option. Voting by mail isn't new, and you can look at the guidelines to see exactly how your ballot is protected. And I want to mention about this, this research done. So in May 2020, document compiled by Ellen L. Weinstraub, Commissioner of the Federal Election Commission, FEC, she reassured voters mail-in ballots are rarely subjected to fraud. In the documents, she shared how election officials are responding to the global health emergency and working to ensure voting by mail remains an accurate and safe choice. So just want to reiterate that vote by mail is safe and secure. Election protection. Know your rights, report issues, and flagging disinformation and misinformation. We will anticipate that there will be a lot of misinformation and disinformation in this election season. So we'll go over some of that. Common election terms. We wanted to share this with you because I've been talking about what absentee ballot, vote early. So just so you know what those terms mean. Absentee ballot, it's ballots cast by mail ahead of election day. Early voting can use any of this. So to vote in person before election day, election official, an employee that works for the election office of election. Polling place, or here in LA County, it's called a vote center. Poll monitor, non-partisan or party volunteer monitoring the election process from inside and outside polling place on election day. Poll worker, a person hired by county to work on the team managing the polling place. Provisional ballot, paper ballot used as fail-safe when there are eligibility questions. And I will go over a little bit more on provisional ballot and what that means. Voting machine, computerized machine, touchscreen, or scanner, or of paper ballot. So here in LA County, that voting machine is called the voting machine. Yes. Common election day problems. So these are some of the very common problems that some people experience the day of the election when they vote, when they want to cast a ballot. Information about identification requirements. Voters who have moved or have changed names since registering, or whose registration isn't found by poll workers and who are denied ballots. Concern about voting machines, long lines, intimidating or discriminatory behaviors, and other conditions at polling places. Difficulties locating or securing transportation to polling places. Questions about people with felony convictions. So these are some common problems that people experience when trying to cast a ballot. More common issues. People don't know where to vote. So there have been so many changes here in LA County regarding the polling locations and transitioning to vote centers. So people don't know where to vote. People have been very used to voting at their poll place precinct. For example, most people are so used to voting at the fire station or at the school, but that this year around that might have changed, or that maybe the fire station was selected as a vote center. So I do anticipate that people will have some questions about, where do I vote? Okay, am I registered to vote? Some people might not know that if they are, whether or not they're registered to vote. When they go to the vote center, they might be telling this person that they are not on the voter rolls. Voters might have moved from the last time they voted. Some others. Some people might say that they didn't receive the absentee ballot or the vote by mail ballot. The voter might also be. They might be asking the voter for a driver license, but the voter does not have one. And I will talk more about a driver license, about what is happening here in LA and also in California. My mom asked me to come with her to translate her ballot, but they won't let me in. I also, some voters might request an absentee ballot, but want to vote in person on election day. So these are some other issues that some voters have experienced, on my experience. So election protection. Election protection, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law. The Election Protection Coalition is the nation's largest nonpartisan voter protection coalition with more than 100 active partners across the country. NALEO Educational Fund is among the coalition partners. The EPC is managed by the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under the Law. So the election protection hotlines, we have several. The ones that we operate at NALEO is the 888 Ve Vota. At the Court of Election Protection are 4 national hotlines to provide voters with critical election information, resolve issues, and document irregularities during election season. The 4 hotlines are linked together. So yes, people have the option. Again, the one that we operate is the 888 Ve Vota. So how does that work? The hotline and the field programs. The caller might want to call any of the 4 hotlines. For example, if they call the NALEO hotline 888 Ve Vota or 888-839-8386. Once they receive the call, they call for an issue, and then the election protection, they have a poll monitoring in 28 states, and California is one of them. So they have field operations in all of these states, and again, 28 states, and we have field operations in California. So our Ve Vota, 888 Ve Vota hotline, again, 839-8682. Hours of operation, it operates Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. on election date, from first polls open to the last polls closed. So we will open very long hours the day of the election and prior to election too. And what is the point? What is the purpose of our Ve Vota hotline? To provide basic voter information and answer questions regarding the deadlines and requirements. If the caller is calling our hotline and they're experiencing some issues, we will complete a report that we will share with our partners about. We will flag it to our partners to report some of those issues, monitor and resolve issues, coordinate with field EPC teams, and reach out to election officials for administrative issues, collect detailed information on issues trends, and work closely with legal partners for required administrative or litigation follow-up. So if we notice that there are some issues happening at the vote centers, at the polling locations, we will flag it, and we will see if it's necessary to address it to the election officials, and also if the litigation might be required. So this is something that we will recommend voters to go through this list after they vote. So some of the questions that we ask them to keep in mind to do this voter protection problem checklist. For example, were you, or do you feel that you were treated differently? Were you able to communicate effectively with the poll workers? Yes or no? Were you able to cast a regular ballot? If not, were you offered provided upon request a provisional ballot? Were you asked for were you asked for voter identification? Was your registration status what you expected it to be? Were there individuals attempting to intimidate you at the polls? So if you answer any of the questions, and yes to any of these questions, or no, so it's important we will encourage you to flag it to us, to NALEO, or the other hotlines that we reviewed just previously. For example, if you were intimidated when you were trying to cast your ballot and they were intimidated, for example, they were telling you to vote a certain way or not vote, that's something that we would love to hear. Something that we would like you to report to our hotline, so we can take the proper actions there. I just want to very briefly go over a few amendments. So the 15th Amendment gave African Americans men the right to vote in 1980. The 19th Amendment, ratified in the 1920, gave American women the right to vote. The 24th Amendment, ratified in 1964, eliminated poll taxes. And then the 26th Amendment, ratified in 1971, lowered the voting age for all elections to 18. However, I do want to focus more on this. The Civil Rights Act created some of the earliest federal protection against discrimination in voting. These protections were first outlined in the Civil Rights Act of 1880 and were later amended by the Civil Rights Acts of the 1957, 60, and 64. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 prohibited voter discrimination based on race, color, membership in a language minority group. It is also requires certain places to provide election materials in languages besides English. So here in LA County, you should be able, if you don't speak English, you should be able to get voter information in other languages. If that is not the case, we will encourage you to please call our hotline and say, the English is not my first language, and they didn't have language options for me. So we will, if possible, we would like you to flag it. The Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicap Act of 1984 require polling places to be accessible for people with disabilities. The National Voter Registration Act of 1993 created new ways to register to vote. It also called for states to keep more accurate voter registration lists. Yes. So voter identification. So it's very different from every state, but I just want to focus what is happening here in California. So what is the difference between first-time voters versus experienced voters? So ID requirements vary. If you voted in California before, you do not need to show an ID. However, if you are a first-time voter who registered by mail and did not include your driver license number, California ID, or your last 4 digits of your social security number on your registration, you might be asked to provide an ID when you vote for the first time. So when you register online, it asks for either your ID or California driver license. So that's how, if you provide, or your last 4 digits of your social security number, if you provide that information, and then you don't have to show your ID the first time you vote, because the Secretary of State's office, they already check your signature, your information with the information that you provided. However, if you did not provide that information, and then they need to check that it's you, they need to check your signature. So they will ask you to provide some other type of ID. For example, some acceptable forms of ID include a utility bill, sample ballot booklet that you might have received in the mail, or some other type of ID. So an ID is not required. Again, they will only ask you for this ID if this is the first time you're voting, and then you didn't provide, again, an ID, a driver license, that when you registered to vote. Options for voting without an ID. If unable to provide ID, you will be able to cast a provisional ballot. Language assistance. Disabled voters and those who cannot write English as well. Federal laws have a right to assist from a person of their choice, not employer or union representative. Some counties must provide ballots and signage in language other than English. Electioneering, just want you to be aware what is electioneering. So talking to or handing out information to a voter to persuade them to vote a certain way. But for some, for the door of the voting place or voting room varies. So what that means is that for the vote center, some people cannot talk to you about campaigns and things like that. They can do that, but they have to meet a distance. They have to be away from the voting places so many feet away. Voters might be allowed to wear campaign T-shirts, buttons, etc. when they go to vote. Depends on the state. So provisional ballots. In a federal elections, a state must offer provisional ballots or affidavit ballot if the voters and eligibility vote is in question. Things to remember: make sure the voter is in the correct precinct or voting location. So again, in LA County, we don't have a precinct or voting location. We have vote centers. Vote centers, the difference is that there are over, I believe there are 1,000 vote centers. So the voter has the choice of voting at any voting place, voting locations. So which was not the case with the polling places before. You were required to vote at a designated voting location. But now with the vote centers, you have the option of voting at any vote center. For example, you can vote at a vote center that is near your job, or a vote center that is near your church, or a vote center that is near your home. Make sure voter knows how to verify whether provisional ballot was counted. So if, for example, there was a problem with when you went to the vote center. So what this means with the provisional ballot, what it is that the ballot will be counted after officials have confirmed you're registered to vote in the county, and that you have not voted in the past. So they just wanna, with the provisional ballot, the county officials, they wanna make sure that they have the correct information and that they wanna double check their information. So, I mean, fewer polling places. I don't think that this will apply to California, to LA County, because again, we have vote centers. We have, I believe, over 1,000 vote centers throughout LA County. Voters should be able to clearly and easily identify polling places, vote centers open to them by consulting mailers and voting guides set by administrators. Check official websites. Some of the websites that I regularly visit and I use constantly is the LA County Registrar's Office and also the Secretary of State's office. Voters should not have to wait longer than half an hour to vote. And, again, we anticipate that there will be a lot of people turning out to vote this election. So we, again, encourage people to vote early. Polling places should have adequate number of machines and staff. Electronic polling books and voting in both county machines should be working functionally. They should be working properly. Mailings and mail ballot issues. Some jurisdictions record voters' preferred language. So when you register to vote, you selected the language that you wanted information to be sent to you. Missing or monolingual mailings may be missing or monolingual mailings might be a signal of a larger election administration or mail delivery problem. If you don't speak English, your main language is other than English, and when you go to vote, you don't have the option of voting in your language, this is an issue. We want you to report it. To be counted, absentee ballots must be completed fully and correctly. What voters? Yeah, again, providing voters with enough information about what is needed when they need to submit their vote by mail ballots. Yeah, so sound the alarm. This is I've been telling you to report certain issues. So this is some of the issues that we would like you to report either through the different hotlines when you see some of these issues at the vote centers, at the voting places. You see that the poll workers do not know what they're talking about. They don't provide you with accurate information. I think it's important to report it. Machine breakdowns, polls, vote centers not open or closing early, poll place not open at expected location. So if you know what is your vote center and they're not open at the time they are supposed to be open, they close before they are supposed to be closed. These are some issues that we would like to know, that we would like you to flag. No language assistance. Again, if you don't speak English, if Spanish, for example, is your native language and you don't see material in Spanish, we would like you to flag it. That is important for us to know. Voter intimidation or discrimination behavior in or outside the polling place or election office. If you experience any intimidation or discrimination while you're trying to cast your ballot, this is something that we would like you to flag. This is very, very serious, and we would like to know. If someone has a disability and for some reason there is the facility or the location it is not ADA accessible, we would like you to let us know. Someone who is expected to be registered. So if you know that you're registered to vote and they are telling you that you're not on the voting rolls, this is something that also we would like to know. Someone who believes so the voter is eligible to vote, it is not offered or refused a provisional ballot, we will definitely would like to know about this issue. Absentee voter refused assistance or provisional ballot or prevented from dropping off ballot at a polling location or election office. This is very serious too, so we would like to know. If the voter did not receive the mail-in ballot on time or is not given sufficient time or opportunity to cure a problem that lead to a ballot rejection. So this is just some of the issues we would like to know if you are experiencing before or during election day. Disinformation versus misinformation versus disinformation. Disinformation is a false information intended to deceive. So people are intentionally trying to misinform people. So we want, if you see this on social media, you see it on the news, we want you to the way we want you to approach it is amplification. So efforts to expose and counter disinformation can end up having the opposite effect, amplifying its reach and adding to its legitimacy. Any attention, particularly mainstream media attention, can provide oxygen to the fire of misinformation. So what we're saying, if you see disinformation, not to amplify it. Not to provide more. Don't give it more attention that is needed, because again, it's false information. So we don't want to spread it. Misinformation, on the other hand, is different from disinformation, and that can spread when journalists misinterpret or fail to independently verify sources' claims. So this is a mistake. It's not done intentionally. This is a mistake. This is specifically likely to occur during an unfolding crisis or breaking news because media tends to act quickly and send comment or response, publishing information that was not verified or amplifying the confusion to the moment. We might see this on social media, people posting. Sometimes it's not accurate, but they're not doing it intentionally. If you have the right information, maybe you can point this person to the LA County office or the registrar's office, where people will get the accurate information. Voter Bill of Rights. So we want people to know what are the rights when they are at the vote center, when they're about to cast their ballots. So these are your 6 rights. You have the right to vote if you're a U.S. citizen, are at least 18 years old, are not barred because of a criminal conviction. Again, felonies disqualify some people from voting in California. Number 2, you have the right to cast a ballot if you're not in line. Oh, yes. And we'll go over it. I think there might be some questions about this. You have the right to cast a ballot if you are in line before the polls close. So this is your vote. This is your right. You have the right to vote a provisional ballot if your name is not on the voter rolls, but you believe you should be registered. So you have the right to receive a provisional ballot. Again, a provisional ballot, the election officials will count your ballot after they verify your information. You have the right to cast a secret ballot free from intimidation. You have the right to receive assistance with voting from a person of your choice. You have the right to vote at a location that is physically accessible to you. So again, this pertains for people that have some disabilities. You should be able to receive ADA accessibility if you have some disabilities. And then we have this information in Spanish, so it's in English and Spanish. So getting out the Latino vote, our work, informational resources, tools, and partners, and what we're doing to get out the vote. So NALEO Educational Fund 2020 Voter Engagement Program. So our program is to ensure a safe and accessible 2020 general election for all Latinos. Our voter engagement efforts will primarily be focusing on educating Latino voters on how to vote by mail, early voting options, and how to safely and securely vote at the polls if they choose to do so. Our efforts are focused in key states, which include California, of course, like here in California, Florida, North Carolina, New York, Pennsylvania, and Texas. Voter information. Again, our hotline, our bilingual hotline, 888-VOTA. We also have a website, the vote411.org. It's in English and Spanish. You will find a lot of resources there. Voting options videos. So we will be releasing a total of 10 videos, 5 in English and 5 in Spanish, to encourage people to vote, just to inform people about their options. And then also we will be releasing some videos that will target the young Latino voters, millennials, and Gen Z, addressing disinformation and misinformation. And we will be doing a lot of other activities. We will be engaging with partners, expanding capacity. We will be doing a lot of social media and also earned media. We will be doing activities on Vote Early Day, which is October 24th. And we will be doing a lot of region-specific efforts, more town halls, presentations, Zoom webinars. Mobilizing the Latino voters. Again, these are the key states where we will be focusing our efforts. Yes. So some more work that we have done. We are doing some mailers that we will be sent to the Inland Empire and the Orange County, just to let people know about their rights, their options, and just providing them with information about elections. Voter engagement and protection. NALEO Educational Fund's year-round toll-free bilingual hotline, 888-VOTA, provides Latino voters with vital information on every aspect of the electoral process, including voting rights. Voters can also report and document incidents of voting rights violation and other concerns related to voting. So any issues, again, with the voting, when you're trying to cast your vote, you're having any issues, please, we do encourage you to call our hotline. Again, some activation dates. First days of early voting, October 5th. Most people most registered voters in California should have received the vote by mail ballots. It's starting October 5th.
Martha?
Yes?
We're at time. So
Okay.
I know you have all this great information, but is there anything you want to use to wrap up?
Just the last thing I want to tell people that, again, October 31st is the last day to complete the census. So if you haven't done it, you can do it online, you can call by phone, or you can, so we will still encourage people to submit their census as soon as possible before the deadline. And that is it.
Great, thank you so much. I don't see that we have any questions, so I'm just going to remind our viewers, if they're there, you can also go to www.lapl.org/vote, also www.lapl.org/census. Those are two comprehensive web pages that have much of the information that you've seen here today, reiterating deadlines and things that are important to know, numbers, et cetera, that you can review for your purposes. Thank you so much, Martha. We appreciate you coming today and sharing all that information with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it was a lot of information, but I just want to make sure that voters are equipped and they have the tools, they have all the information they need before the election. Yeah. And yeah, so if you have any questions for me, Madeline, I'm going to share my information. If people want to reach out to me later after this presentation, I welcome any questions, anything that they have. I'm making myself available to answer any questions.
Sure, thank you. It's not a problem. We appreciate that. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.